Hey guys, it's Simply Imaginary People. I'm just going to do a short tutorial a bit on some cool things you can do with objects. So say you've made an object, and I'm going to start with shells. So here's a shelf that someone made, not me. And the first thing I'm going to show you is slots. So if you go to this slot tool, you'll see that there's a couple of things. Bones are just the bones it's assigned to, and container entries. Now you can see that there's a couple of slots, and if you click them, you can see where the slots are. So this one is off the shelf, and these are all kind of floating around in space. You can also see, if I click the dot, what the slot is for. So this slot is only for small objects. You can see there's other stuff like a spool, a counter sink, which if you're making a counter, you'll need to put a slot that has that in, counter appliance, and some other things. Right, so what you can do is with slots, it's very easy. You can just click one and you can just slide these by pulling the yellow bits and make sure that they are on the shelf. Go. Also make sure they're the right height. And if you have more slots, you can just delete them. What you can also say is say duplicate. And press yes, and then you can have more slots. You can only have like I think 25 or 30, something along those lines. But that's literally how you can place slots and place them wherever you want. You can also use these buttons to rotate them. So sometimes you might want it facing down or sideways. You're just going to have to fiddle with the values, but it's these three, or these 9 boxes that say in which way they're rotated. Then what's also pretty cool about shelves is to make them shiftable. Now, you can make pretty much any object shiftable. The issue with shiftable is as soon as you make an object shiftable, you can no longer place it anywhere. So holding Alt with a shiftable object will only allow you to shift it up and down in minute steps, but it'll then snap to grid. So consider if you want to make something shiftable or not. Like beds. Beds is very useful sometimes. Right, so to make an object shiftable, I'm going to scroll down here under Project, and I'm going to go to a couple of things. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Wall Placement Flags. And you're going to say, Z just means it's like on a wall. If it's like an object like a bed, you can just click WF anywhere, because you don't just want to place it on a wall. And let me just make this bigger, and then you can tick this, can be moved up and down wall. And for this to work, you need to have ticked, where is it? Okay, if it's like a bed, you're going to have to tick allow wall object on ground, because that means you can also put it on the ground, although this is a shelf, I don't want that. And nice. You're going to have ticked on wall, because otherwise it's not on the wall and it won't be shiftable, because theoretically only wall objects are shiftable, which is why you can't Alt use them to not snap them to grid. So by ticking can be moved up and down wall and on wall, and either min Z or WF anywhere, and if you want to, can be placed on ground, allow wall object on ground, you can make an object shiftable. So that's pretty much the shiftable thing. Now I'm going to import a new object. So to show you the next thing. Someone asked me once how I made my cribs. Okay, so if I have a crib, the first thing you can do with an object is go to slots, and under footprints, you'll see this footprint and you'll see this footprint. So this is a footprint for the object. And what you can do is, if you, let's say I import a really small crib that's like this big, I don't know why you do that, but yes, you can tell it to calculate the footprint from your mesh. See, then it fits the mesh size. And this means that if you, let's say, import a super wide object that's like theoretically 4 squares wide into here, you can change the footprint. The other cool thing you can do is for these footprints, you can say here, this is just for placement and isn't able. So that's just where you can place the object. This one you can say is also for pathing. This means this is like it's blocked for the path. And you can see here allow intersection flags. So you can say, okay, I can place this object and it's allowed to intersect with a wall. I can place this object and it's allowed to intersect with an object. So that means I could probably place a lamp on top of it or whatever. And for things like bunk beds, you can say allow intersection sims. This means a sim can walk through the object. It's not blocked by it. Obviously, this is things like lamps that are hanging from the ceiling, or wall objects, or stuff like that. Yeah. Also, if you can place it inside, outside, or on a slope, and if you can place it on a pool or a pond, or I should say fence, on a fence, if you can place it on a roof. So you can pick where you can place objects and what objects can be can intersect it. So that's pretty cool. Now, for changing the height of the toddler sleeping, you'll see here you've got container entries. So that container entry, slot 1, is the stuffed toy. If you open a newer version of TSRW, it will say stuffed toy here. And you can see that's one in the corner. And this one is the sim container entry. So I can actually, if I want to, shift that up. But if I'm going to shift it up, then I'm going to remember the height, which is the middle one, copy that, because you've got effect entries. Now, effect entries are obviously what they say, something that causes an effect. So you'll see here, find it. First one's at the bottom. Then you've got one here in the middle. This is the toddler. So I'm going to change the height of this as well if I want to make it higher or lower. And then you've got these two. And this is just the adult picking up the toddler. I don't usually fiddle with these. You can change the height of the sim toddler sleeping because no objects change when the sim is sleeping. So if I move it up or down, nothing's going to really change. What I mean is, like, if you have a bed or a mattress, if I change the height of the sim, then the height of the blanket isn't going to change because the blanket moves with the sim while they're sleeping. This is why it's hard to make beds different heights unless you make them shiftable, because then everything shifts, including the script. So yeah, sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. Like if I make a really low table, the sim might look like the arms are stretched down to the bottom when they're eating food if I make the plate heights go down and stuff like that. So it just might make it a little bit weird. Also, if you consider this is the placement and pathing thing, you can consider that this is probably, as we know, where the sim stands when they put the toddler in. So by changing this to maybe be longer, so go out to this side by changing the values, and by changing these slots where the adult interacts with the effect entries where the adult interacts with the toddler, we can make the adult theoretically put the toddler in from the side. This just goes into a bit more advanced, so you'd have to fiddle around to see how that works, but that's how you also make beds where sims can get in from only one side by moving the container entries, the effect entries, and the footprints. But yeah, that goes more advanced and it involves a lot of fiddling. But that's pretty much the things you can change in TSRW about all this. Also, if you make a deco object, or anything else, I guess, maybe a toy or something, let's go to decoration. You can under here go under, find it, wait a second. Obviously here you can change the categories in which the objects show. Yes, slot placement flags. You can say what this type of object is. If it's small, medium, or large, then you can place it onto slots that are for small, medium, or large. So if your object is for some reason not placing, like it won't snap onto a table, then you can tick small, or small objects, obviously, medium or large things like TVs. And you can do that to make your object be able to be put onto slots. Obviously, let's see. You can do all of this in Sims 3PE. So if you open your object in Sims 3PE, you can go here to the objd file, click on grid, and you can here change category it's in. Here at the moment it's in bathroom, bedroom, living room, dining room, so you can tick true or false for those. Functional room category flags. What you can also do is here wall placement flags. I can say on wall can be moved up and down wall. Say object type flags. Here I could say allow wall object on the ground. And then if I find the other one, slot placement flags, I can also change this from small to medium. This is good for objects you've already downloaded because that means that you're not changing the codes of the object and it will replace them in game without them, like it'll just change them in game without replacing the object in the game. So this is how I could resort an object that's in the wrong category, or make it placeable on slots, or make it shiftable. Yeah, so that's just a couple of tips and tricks for objects.